The story is situated on another world different than Earth, the continent Terranor. There's a legend there that's been spread which says that once the king's heart burns and disappears, someone would come to this land, a being that transcends the fate of today's world. We're introduced to the Emperor of Terranor, whose name is Lusclan. He had tried to sacrifice his 5 sons, 7 daughters, and 19 nobles' friends in order to invoke the god of the Otherworld that the prophecy talks about. However, when the alleged god finally appears, he's disappointed and says he's been losing his time looking for him. It turns out he looks just as a commoner. The invocation had brought a normal 10-year-old kid from the earth and, furious, the emperor demands they take him away from his view immediately. The kid had just arrived to a new world and he had been already expulsed of this odd and new land. We're now at the Luclanium castle and see how the emperor sees the kid fighting a monster he had invoked from another world to defend himself against him. We see the protagonist manages to fight and defeat it very quickly, making the emperor mad. The kid explains to him that the reason why beings from other worlds like that monster were so shy is because the laws of this world don't apply to them, and that he was another being from other world he had invocated. We're explained that a powerful magic lineage has been given to the Lusclan Empire, giving them the ability to invoke beings from others' worlds, and then we see the protagonist is reclaiming things to the emperor. He says to him that because of the power they had, a lot of people had died and that the population of that land constantly suffered his tyranny and extortion, and that he had experienced hell because of him, because once he invocated him, he was treated like trash. He explains he escaped from that place and that it took him 3 years to finally come back, and that he went through all of that hell for one reason, to get his revenge. He claims his tyranny would end right there and he would give back to his partners their resentment. To all of this, the emperor can't do anything else but admit the prophecy was right and to curse it. He's quickly attacked by the protagonist, who killed him right away. After his victory, the protagonist is leaving, but someone calls him by his name, which is Sihan, by the way. It was Levina, who congratulates him for defeating the king. He says that it was a long fight indeed, and then he hugs her, saying it was finally over and that she wouldn't have to worry anymore because he'll make sure she'll be happy forever, to what she blushes and smiles back to him. A guy named Lilstein appears and interrupts them, saying that it wasn't over yet because, in order to kill the rest of the monsters, they would have to burn the king's heart. He also says to Sihan that he thought it was impossible for him to kill the king and admits his power is amazing. We see another guy comes into the scene and wonders what would happen to Sihan if they burn the Heart's King, since he could also disappear. Lilstein says that Sihan's been invocated to the world for the nobles, not the kings, and that there wasn't any way that he would go back to his world, even if they burn the king's heart. Levina asks Sihan if he has to go back to his home, and he says that it's been decided that because of the colleagues who fight with him, his friends, and the love of his life, he would stay. He admits he misses his world, but still, he won't regret to stay because everything that's important to him is on that world. One of his friends says that he looks really decided, and Levina kisses him and says that could be a problem. A dimensional portal appears out of nowhere and Sihan, naive, says to everyone to be careful because someone has opened a portal, but then he sees the king's heart on one of his friend's hands and understands everything. One of them explains to him that even if everyone on the Lusclan lineage were dead, if they could have access to the dust of the heart of one of them, it would still be possible to open a portal to another world. Everyone starts saying that he has become too powerful, he has been too loved and become too famous, so that if he continue like that, he'll end up as the governor of the empire, and that they don't want another emperor. They admit he is, indeed, the world's savior, and that they're grateful for that, but that he should go back to his own world, that they can't let their world on an outlander's hands. He starts screaming, asking what was going on, and asks for help to Levina because he couldn't move. She tells him he had the chance to do the right decision and that she's sorry, but she doesn't want to be a king's wife, that she wants to be a queen and not a trophy for a man, but a woman that has man as a trophy instead, and that he's a man who can't be his prize. He screams at her, asking what the hell she's talking about, and she answers that, since he was feeling so bad, she'll end his pain, and then she throws him into the portal, saying he'll come back to where he belonged. And then we see protagonist falling and screaming. The scene changes, and at Terranor's castle there's one of the Sihan's traitors claiming to the people of that land that the world has been saved for the savior and the 6 heroes, and that respecting the savior's wishes he's been taken back to his world, and that a new future would be brought there, that's what Sung Sihan would wanted. He continues his speech declaring that they, the 6 heroes, will be the pillars of the land, and that the 6 heroes' era may begin. Once their era began, the brutal taxes were abolished and people were free from the forced work. The 6 kingdoms worked together in close collaboration, giving a time of peace and prosperity to Terranor. The scene changes and we see a girl on what it seems to be a field, singing and picking up some fruits from the trees. She happily says that the day was clear and perfect to plow the field, so she starts doing it while she keeps singing. But then something calls her attention. There was a fish on the yard and she recognizes it as a flatfish, and seeing it's fresh and alive she decides to eat it, but then she reflects she can't eat a fish she found randomly on the middle of the field because that's suspicious. So she goes back to her tasks, but a strong noise stops her. A pig falls on the floor out of nowhere. First a flatfish and now a pig. She wonders what's going on with the sky, and on that exact moment she sees a naked man falling from it. She asks him if he's dead, but he doesn't answer. Instead, he starts laughing and says he could finally make it. Yes, he was our protagonist. He wonders how many years passed and screams he's back, and after that, exhausted, he collapses. The girl asks herself what was all that about.